Hey, good evening. Welcome to GB Boxing and Fighting Irish. And with me tonight, as usual, we've got sugar-free Luke Byrne and Adam Logan, who apparently is a lot younger than I really thought he was. But that's because of his vast knowledge. It's not anything to do with, like, he doesn't look like a decrepit old man or anything. I mean, that's just the Scottish weather.
Yeah, exactly. It's a hard life up north.
Yes, so that's why there's so many Scottish widows. The men folk don't live very long.
Hit 50 and drop dead.
Other pension providers are available, but they're not as good as Scottish widows. Ching ching. But yeah, so tonight we're going to have a discussion about the light heavyweight scene, largely in these islands, us being GP boxing and Fighting Irish. And if we've time, then we'll do a quick recap and forward look at the boxing, but not too much time on it. I'm just going to warn you folks now.
Yeah. Well, there's not too much to talk about.
You find a way. You'll find someone like seventh on an undercard, and suddenly this guy, you wanted to do a 30-minute monologue on them. But anyway, right, let's go into it. The heavyweight boxing scene in the UK and Ireland is thriving at the moment. Everyone's enjoying it. It's that division, I think, that attracts a lot of people to it because you've got power, but you've also got that skill level that's still there from the welterweights, the middleweights, and now we're up at light heavy. It's normally where you have boxers that are kind of either just, not quite big enough for the heavyweights and they're content there, or they're a young boxer and they're there at light heavyweight and they're going, yeah, I'm going to be up at heavyweight shortly, but I just really got to find my feet here first. So on that note, I'm going to start with Luke because he looks like he's ready to go. And Luke, the floor is yours.
Okay, so if we start off on a couple of young up-and-coming boxers, who I think could potentially, get to at least British level in the light heavyweight division, and I think possibly further than that. And the first one I'm going to name is kind of an awkward one because we don't know where he's going to end up, but Ben Whittaker.
That's the first one on my list as well.
Shocker! Start with a complete left field one there.
At the moment, he's starting, we think, at super middle.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not far from super middle to light heavy.
No. And I think it's inevitable. Now, as Adam and I have discussed before, and yourself, and he was comfortable at light heavyweight in the pros, in the amateurs, So there's no reason why he can't cut those extra 11 pounds and get down to super middleweight. But I think essentially his division is going to be light heavyweight.
Yeah, but I mean, at his age, he's going to just fill out into that. So there's no point in going backwards. And he doesn't have to, No, it's not like some people that try to get into a lighter weight for an easier time.
If he can get himself a two-weight world champion status, why shouldn't he? But I think his future is at light heavyweight regardless. That's why I put him on. And I think he can go above and beyond. I think he can definitely be a world champion. I know it's very early days to say that, but I do think he can.
Yeah, but I mean, you see potential in boxers. I mean, we all see it. I mean, that's why a lot of us watch the Olympics. Great and all that, but we are keeping the eye out of the next future superstars because unlike every other sport in the Olympics, well, except golf, I suppose, this is the pinnacle for your athletes and your swimmers. Whereas with boxing, it's kind of like the shop window almost,
Yeah.
For pros. Now, don't get me wrong, winning a gold medal in boxing is a wonderful achievement. And we look at the greats that have won them and, it stands to them just how much that means because all, there's no kind of avoidance in the Olympics. It's literally the best against the best,
But it's still two different sports. And
well, it's changing. Amateur boxing is changing more into professional boxing, but like we said before, as it's over the three rounds, it makes a lot of the time the last round redundant, as we found out in the Commonwealth game.
Well, look, it's still essentially two different sports. No matter how they're scored, everything about them is different. And I think the pros will suit Ben Whittaker because he's got that kind of brash, attitude. He loves the big lights, loves the big scene. I don't think the occasion will get to him. I think he will go on to have a great, bright future. Now, number two on my ones to watch is Joe Ward, a countryman of our own enda.
Yes, absolutely.
I've sparred with Joe. He is.
You're worse than Carl Froch, you know that.
He's he's excellent.
I know, but dropping your name into everything.
No, but I'm speaking from personal experience here.
I know. I'm only joking. And you fought in front of 80,000 at Wembley too.
When I was training with Joe, when he turned it on, he was phenomenal. He did whatever he wanted with whoever was in the gym. Landing shots at will, great defense, great feet work. He's got it all, and he's a southpaw.
Mm.
And no one likes fighting southpaws. I don't care who you are. Just asked Joshua there 2 weeks ago.
I think that was more than just being a southpaw, to be honest.
Oh no! If you listen to Joshua, orthodox is easy. It's southpaw that's hard. But no, Joe Ward has
18 stone. If he was fighting at 14 stone, he turned it up.
The only person to ever dominate Joe Ward is La Cruz.
Mm.
No one else. And it's no great shakes getting dominated by Julio La Cruz because he's the man. He'd proved it up a heavyweight there last year. You know, he is one of the greatest of all time out of Cuba. So that's the only person who's ever outboxed Joe Ward. And I think he's trained by Joey Gamache over in New York. Fantastic trainer. Especially because Joe, once he sits down on his punches, he can hit pretty hard. Joey Gamache will bring the best out of him. And I think he can definitely go on to beyond European level. I really do. And then another one is a fellow countryman again. Only starting off in his career is Thomas O'Toole from Galway. Now, he is an excellent young boxer. Again, I'm going to name drop Enda because I have trained with him before a couple of times up in Galway.
Well, I mean, this is why you're saying, like, Joe Ward, we know, but obviously Thomas O'Toole we don't. So that's coming from your experience. So that's perfectly fine.
Never sparred with Thomas personally because he was a middleweight. When he was in the gym and I was in the gym. But yeah, he's a light heavyweight now, full fledged. He had one of the knockouts of the year last year on DAZN. That went viral for a couple of weeks. And he's an excellent prospect. He's boxing out of Boston at the moment. He's got a huge American contingent, got great fans, really nice lad, really likable, and he can box and fight. And I think he can definitely go on to maybe British, European level, and maybe beyond that. I think he's just a really exciting fighter overall to watch.
Do you think he could become like the next John Duddy of America?
No.
Or Burt? You go bigger than that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'd rate him above the likes of, and this is one of my honorable mentions, getting ahead of myself here, but I'd rate him. He has potential to be a lot better than the likes of Dan Aziz, who's the British champion. So I think there's levels, and he can go up them.
Very good.
And that's my up and comers. So go to yourself, Adam. Next, I think, is it or?
Yeah. So I had Joe Ward was the top of my list. 3-time European amateur champion, 2-time world.
By the way, I'm just finishing my dinner.
So all good. Yeah, 2-time world silver medalist. He's one of those guys who, a bit like Ramirez, who big fanfare turning over, and then he blew his knee in his first fight.
I remember that.
So I remember looking at his so I looked him up when I was looking at this, and I was like 6-1. I was like, and someone rang a bell, and obviously I kind of went through it and looked, and you just think, right, and it's just that the records aren't everything.
No,
because I remember. So I'm really looking forward to watching him develop. Hopefully he gets like a nice big contract or something. Start pushing him across the States and the East Coast. And we've praised him a few times. Joey Gamache is a fantastic trainer. Ben Whittaker was second on my list. I a little less convinced. I want to see. He's for the minute is kind of stuck between two styles for me. He wants to do what he did in the amateurs, which was frustrate on the back foot and just kind of like keep you away and outscore you. And now he's got Sugar Hill in his corner, who wants him to fight with that Kronk style, and he's a little bit caught between the two. And I think you saw that in the last one.
Yeah.
Basically, how will he develop in this? He's got all the talent in the world. He could quite easily develop into this really well, and he'll be absolutely fine. Whether he's going to be at super middle or light heavy, I think the jump from light heavy up to cruiser will be too much for most of these guys, if not all of these guys.
Definitely.
But I think certainly Ben can challenge for world titles, both super middle and light heavy. Now, the name I've got a couple of names. We've got Calum Simpson. I don't know if either of you have heard of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's a good, really good prospect. Everything Boxing recommended him, so I went and had a little look at him. I'm very impressed. It looks really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing him come through. And again, he'll be another one who'll be kind of coming to British level as that title frees up. All the guys we're going to talk about later are all going to move on up. And then you're going to find there's going to be this little dearth of, quality at British level. As inevitably happens, you tend to find a lot of guys running through at once, and then everybody stops or everyone moves on and there's a gap. So Calum Simpson looks good. And just because we've all got to have a little bit of nepotism, John Doherty, the former super middleweight, looks like he's moving up.
What's the Scottish one you'd like to flag?
The Scottish one, yes. That's the one I'd like to...
Luke gave us Irish one, so it's perfectly legitimate because that's what you know. I mean, that you're talking about, this is a guy I want to watch out for, so other people wouldn't be aware of it, so I don't have any issue with that at all.
Thankfully, I haven't sparred John. I'm very grateful I haven't sparred John. But he's a really good puncher, and I think John's figured out that he's not going to be, Julian Jackson, who's going to put everyone to sleep right the way through the levels. And he kind of fell in love with his power a little bit, and I think now he's taking a step back as he gets another run at it. If he can get active and get himself kind of set up, because he's not necessarily settled, because I think with a lot of Scottish boxers, we all want to come home. But we don't have that elite setup. It's not here in Scotland. Like the amateurs looks really, really good at the minute. But as a pro,
you're Scottish. You had a wonderful Commonwealth Games. I know most countries, but I mean the standout boxers were Scottish.
Yeah. They were really good, and but we just don't seem to have that kind of pro setup. We've got Billy Nelson up here. That's really kind of about it. I'm sure there are some guys coming through, but
then the better ones, I suppose, are nabbed by Matchroom, and
that's it. And they all end up down in London, and that's the place to be. And obviously, John had his shot, and Matchroom have kind of dropped him. But yeah, John's the guy. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he kind of develops. And I think there's a lot to work with there. We'll just see how this all kind of goes through. But Callum Simpson and John Doherty are my other two, outside of the ones that we have already kind of shouted out.
Yeah, and John Doherty has a big frame.
Big boy.
And I think out of all you've mentioned, if one was to go to cruiser,
he's your boy. Yeah, I think so.
And you talked about the Scottish pro game there, and I just the way Josh Taylor was bigging up the guys in the Commonwealth Games, I thought, would he set up his own promotion company maybe as his career winds down?
Quite possibly, with a little bit of backing from people. There's certainly room for it. And the Scottish guy, light heavy, won gold, which was Sean Lazzarini.
Yeah.
And he was really good. I thought it was very close in the final, but he looks like he'd be a great pro to watch.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, because the three Scottish, did they win 3 gold medals? They did.
3 golds, yeah.
And they were all men. And the 3 of them I was hugely impressed by,
The thing is with these championships, whether it's Commonwealth, European, Worlds, Olympics, the final is 9 times out of 10 going to be close.
Yeah, of course it is. It should be.
So, like people might say, you're not saying it as a knock, but other people might say, "Oh, that was a bit close. That I don't know how good he is." We have to think it's the best versus the best. So
yeah, this is it. It's supposed to be close.
Exactly. So I think that's no knock on him. If anything, that makes it better that he can win a tight fight.
Yeah, exactly. You can dig deep.
And Eddie Hearn was in attendance for the finals. I mean, what does that tell you?
One thing I was going to say about Ben Whittaker, but I omitted it, and you reminded me of it there, Adam. His training situation, I don't think is the best match.
That's an interesting one.
I would like to see Ben Whittaker with one of 2 people. With Dalton Smith's father, whose name is
Grant Smith.
Grant, yes. I'd like to see him with either him or Dave Caldwell.
I like Caldwell. I've got a lot of time for Caldwell.
The style that Caldwell coaches would suit him down to the ground for what he likes to do.
Yeah, really relaxed.
And he can teach you how to punch.
Yeah.
Do you know,
a very underrated trainer. I think what interestingly happens in the UK is people come up as trainers. And then, like you said, you sometimes get these fighters that don't necessarily fit. People end up very good at coaching a specific style, like Adam Booth is the example everyone goes. And you end up with people that don't necessarily mix. And I think you're right. I think Dave Caldwell would be a really, really good shout. It's just whether Ben Whittaker, I suppose he's from Wolverhampton, so Rotherham wouldn't be too far.
No.
Yeah. But that's really good, guys. And
we got onto our honorable mentions. So,
well, I'm just going to drop a name into the mix here, and I follow him and I like him, and I've met him, and he told me his name was Jack, and then he corrected us and no, it's John. So I don't know if he was playing a joke with me that completely went over my head, as tends to happen when you're on the autism spectrum. It's like, Oh, right, yeah. But it's John Hedges.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed by this chap, and he's so clean. His boxing's so clean, and he's such a tall chap. I never realized it.
Is he not huge? Like huge?
Yeah.
6'5".
He's very tall. So
Yeah.
he'd definitely be going through light heavyweight onto heavyweight more than likely. But I mean, like, he's definitely one that I think can, on his journey, fight for a light heavyweight British title. So,
Maybe so.
Oh yeah. I got a great trainer with
Mark
him.
Tibbs, fantastic.
Oh, I mean, like, here, let me name drop now. When I was with Mark Tibbs a few weeks ago when we were chatting, no, but like, I mean, John was there, and like, they were just so cool. And he also had his heavyweight. God, his name's now gone out of my head.
Johnny Fisher.
No, not Johnny Fisher, the young lad. I think he's fighting at the weekend. It'll come to me now, but no, he's only 1-0. This guy, but he's one to watch, and I'll keep it. He was, I think. Now I wasn't seeing it. I think him and John Hedges were sparring earlier. No, Fisher was gone at this point, but I think Fisher's on a different journey than John Hedges or his other prospect. But
I think with Hedges and Fisher, it's Hedges will have all the will probably have a better career in terms of achievements. Whereas I think Fisher, because of who he is in terms of he's like a heavyweight and he's a really good attraction, a lovable guy, sells well, very entertaining, will get a lot of TV space.
Oh yeah, like he's going to be, that entertaining boxer that people love. This whole Bosch thing has taken off, and I'm almost a little bit tired of it, But I wouldn't tell John. I wouldn't tell John. But no, he's a very likable guy, and he's a lovely guy, and he's not afraid to mix it up. And he's been sparring with I think is it Buatsi for his next fight. Yes, he was sparring with Buatsi for his next fight. So he's a good go-to guy, and he deserves all the screen time and the accolades he gets, because that's what you need at the end of the day. You can have your technical brilliance, but people like a good scrap as well, and they like a fun boxer, and John ticks all that boxes. But we've gone too high in weight, so let's go back down to light heavyweight, and let's go with your near misses.
So I'm just going to get my notes out because I don't want to mess anything up with it, because I was just taking it down earlier. I'll do it by ranking. Top to bottom. So I have Callum Johnson. We talked about him before. His problem is activity.
Yeah. He
can punch as hard as almost anyone in the division. We can't say he punches as hard as Peterbiev, but he punches very, very hard. Yeah. And if he hits you, you're probably going to fall. Now, he's very hittable himself.
I was going to say it, but it's if he lands
enough. He is the quintessential Joe Gallagher fighter. Hands at your chin, come forward, throw close shots. And it suits him because of his stature. Now, he's a very big light heavyweight, build-wise. I'd say he's over the cruiserweight limit when he's in the ring. But yeah, he's an honourable mention. I don't have him in my top 5. I don't know where I'd rank him in my top 10 because I didn't do that. But
yeah, that's
fine. My number 2 is Shaquan Pitters. I think he is... I think he's a really skillful, fun fighter to watch. He's 6'6", and my gripe with him is he likes to fight too much. If he could just have that, as the Americans call it, the stick, to keep that jab out, nice long shots. If he could box a bit more like Jordan Thompson likes to try and box, I think he'd be a force to be reckoned with. But I say within the next 18 months he'll have to move up anyways, because he's a big lad.
He's a big lad.
Then I have, who I mentioned already, is Dan Aziz, the British champion. I think the British title is nearly losing its luster a bit, because the top guys, the best in Britain, aren't the British champion anymore. Do you know, like, he's the British champion, but he wouldn't touch most of the top guys in Britain. It would be nearly an unfair fight to stick him in with anyone in my top 5, and probably in both of your top 5s as well. And then my last one is Joel Mcintyre, who really impressed me with his English title win. Like he that was a stunning knockout. Like that was back in July, and he was the underdog in that fight, and he went in, showed no fear, and went and ripped the rewards of it because he had a big knockout. He's now English champion, and someone's going to want that belt, so he's going to be stepping up the way, and we'll see how far he can go.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I have fairly similar, so I'll try and add something to each one.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, with Mcintyre, it's not necessarily that it's a near miss for him. He's just not there yet. It's just that simple. He hasn't had the shot yet, so we're just going to wait and see. I also have Shaquan Pitters. I think basically it's the artillery. He fights in a way that he just doesn't have the physical attributes to do with. Like, he's a massive lad, but he doesn't necessarily punch enough to fight the way he does.
Exactly.
And I think against the other guys, that's the problem, which I think is that issue going forward. So I also have Callum Johnson as well. Callum Johnson, right, for a guy who's fought for a world title and is a former British champion who knocked Buglioni out in a round, has underachieved, in my opinion.
Yeah, he has.
Commonwealth Games gold medalist. He has died on the vine. He looks like he's declining. He's quite stiff, especially in the last. I think it was a majority draw. A majority decision. Sorry, in his last fight. He looks to me like he's declining, which is such a shame. I don't know what in terms of the advice he was given. I don't know if it was a mix up between Hearn and Gallagher. Callum Johnson, in his prime, would comfortably fit into this top 5.
Yeah.
But I think we're 5 years down the line. Maybe not quite 5, but something like that.
I think losing his dad is probably really.
And he did have that opportunity against Joe Smith Jr. and then that fell apart.
Yeah. Like he's injury ridden.
Yeah, his body's just not able to cope with it at the minute.
With his dad, that was a good 18 months out of the ring, wasn't it? Just for that.
Yeah, but we will see from his social media, he's that's still a big thing in his life, So
and there was a piece on it on I watched it on YouTube. I'm not sure which channel it's on, but yeah, me and my dad were watching it, and it'd bring a tear to your eye because
that's sad.
It's something that can't be helped. We've seen it with Luke Campbell as well.
Yeah.
And I think it did knock out both their careers. I
really did.
And,
huge.
I wish Callum Johnson all the very best, and I hope he can come again because he's exciting. Like that 2-rounder he had.
It's brilliant, wasn't it?
Oh my God.
Was it brilliant? What? He's a really fun fighter, and it's like. Yeah. Like I said, it's not a knock. I'm not not having a go or criticizing in terms of he fought Beterbiev. He's the only man.
With the ball skin with Beterbiev.
Yeah, put him on his backside, and it just he couldn't live with it. So the only difference I have, and I would imagine this is your number 5, is Lyndon Arthur. So as my kind of my nearly miss. So with Lyndon, I thought that, and it's going to be really, really harsh, I thought Yard lost the fight against him.
More than he won it.
And I thought that what happened in the second fight was what I expected to happen in the first.
How things, Stephen?
Evening, my man. I would expect that the couple. I've been disappointed. There's more there. He's got a beautiful jab. He's got lovely feet, but it's too basic. There's not enough. It's jab, move, jab, right hand. And if you have the physicality to put it on him, like Yard did, that was very disappointing.
Yeah,
that was very disappointing. And I think the crushing nature of that defeat doesn't mean he can't come back. It doesn't mean that he wouldn't necessarily have a really good chance against some of these other guys. But for me, it makes him the nearly miss on this one. He was my just below.
Okay. What about yourself, Enda?
Well, like I said in the text messages, I am the moderator, and I wasn't necessarily giving my top 5s. But I mean, it's largely in agreement with what you said. I mean, people you feel for Callum Johnson and that, and then like you said, the higher up you go, the British champion isn't necessarily the best light heavyweight, but that's because the best light heavyweights are competing at world level, and British level is like a stopgap measure to that. You don't hold the British title and the world title because obviously, people are in a hurry or they want to go places quickly, and that's what happens. But no, I'm largely in agreement with everything you've said there. I was just Tommy Fletcher is the name of the guy. He's fighting at cruiserweight at the moment, and
Okay.
heavyweight. He's 6'7", so he's
big guy,
and he's fighting in Manchester. So there's the drop anyway. The guy to watch out for. So, Stephen, if you want to drop in your top 5 into the chat and I can call them out, or if the guys want to go over anything else, we can do that now. We can.
One thing on the British title.
Yeah.
So we're talking about that. So I think the British title is suffering from the fact that people have less fights. So because people are having longer amateur careers and having to fight for world titles faster, I find that people are winning the are winning the British title, and I'm going to go through this with you. So, of the top 7 guys I have on my list, 4 of them are former or current British champions. But what's happened is they've won it and moved on almost immediately. No one wins it outright anymore, and I think that's what's kind of losing the luster. And also, one of my big complaints is that we're not seeing Callum Johnson versus Lyndon Arthur for the British title.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're not necessarily getting those classic British matchups, which is what you would like to see. That really build up the British title, and I think that's where it's losing its luster.
My gripe, just to add to what you're saying, unless you can do a Lewis Ritson on it, people aren't interested anymore.
Yeah.
So he was the quickest ever, and he blitzed through it in 7 months.
It's like 4.5 rounds, wasn't it?
Yeah,
something ridiculous.
Yeah,
like in terms of time frame, about 7 months.
Yeah. So that's a lot of activity for a pro. But if you're at British level, that should be your activity. And people are forgetting this. And it's like me and my dad have discussed, like, whenever I do turn over in a couple of years' time, he would prefer I go the traditional route. Because I was born in England, so I'd be eligible to box for.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you're eligible for.
I always said you were English anyway.
And I'd be eligible to box with them.
Barry McGuigan fought for the British title, and he was born in Ireland. Lives in the, Monaghan's in the Irish Republic. I mean, he'd fight for the British title, and he won the British title.
But like my dad being from the older school generation, where the British title was a big, big deal.
Well, it's a beautiful belt. The Lonsdale belt
is one of the nicest boxing. Probably up there with the Ring magazine.
They're the 2 nicest belts in boxing. Largely because there isn't a Lonsdale or Lonsdale.
Anthony Yard, right?
Yeah,
he's both going to be in our top 5, right? Obviously, right? So he never boxed for a British title. He went that WBO route, and it shows that he never boxed at British level, because when he got up there, that mountain was too tall to climb. Whereas if he would have built himself up a bit more difficult, he might have been able to weather storms. Do you know?
My theory on that one is they didn't trust he would.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's because promoters are protecting their boxers, and they'll get exposed if they go the British title route, because they'll have to fight people at their standard now. So they want to just protect them. And Hearn is very good at this.
That's the only way you improve.
Yeah, but they just want bling, and they want it now. Like, Hearn is a master at finding a weak world champion and getting his guy in there.
Very briefly interjecting you there. That is a Frank Warren move 101.
Yeah. I was thinking, there's not Hearn.
Yeah, that's Frank Warren 101.
Well, Frank Warren does it with WBO, and Eddie Hearn does it with whomever is available. But, I mean, like, we saw it there, the expose and the WBC rankings for sale. I was like, that's every organization. Like, all of a sudden, I mean, Frank Warren was the WBO as far as I was concerned in the 90s. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. But look, British level is nothing to be laughed at. British level.
I wish I was that good, man. I wish I was that good.
And like,
but I even find, sorry for cutting across you, Luke. I even find when I went to London and watched that Bentley Udafaya fight, and that was for the British title. That was a ferociously wonderful fight.
That's well matched. That's the fights you want, because
that's what I want. Because I'm sick of seeing these one-sided shit, and then you've got DAZN, and you've got even Top Rank retweeting it like it's knockout of the year. It wasn't. You put your guy in against a guy who was so out of his depth, and this is knockout of the year. No, it's not.
To defend Eddie Hearn, when you talk about Denzel Bentley, Felix Cash, Hearn did not hesitate to put Felix Cash in with him on Frank Warren's bill, and that could have been easily a banana skin, but cash is the business, and he proved it.
Business.
Well, obviously, I think that was a case of Hearn backing his man and kind of, getting the one.
But promoters need to do that more, and that's why I'm saying in defense of him.
Yeah, but but he'll do that to the ones he knows they're going to do it. The ones he's not sure of, he'll avoid it.
Because the Bentley's a hard bastard who can punch.
That's what I mean. He knew it wasn't a risk with Bentley, whereas with others it could.
Was it?
But you know what I mean. He'd super faith in it.
Yeah, but I think most promoters wouldn't have done that. Now, two promoters, I should say, that will do it is Dennis Hodson.
Yeah.
And also Wasserman on Channel 5. At British level, they're hosting good fights from English to British level. And it's great to have it for free, absolutely, for Channel 5. And it's good quality, well-matched fights. And that's what English to British level should be.
Wasn't Bentley, wasn't the Udafias Bentley one, that was a Channel 5 program.
Yeah, it was.
And that very annoying Sunderland boxer was supposed to be topping the card, but apparently he wouldn't fight a guy about 2 stone too heavy.
Well, I don't blame him.
But
no, we're getting
I hope I haven't bursted you.
Is set in stone. Okay, that's his order. Okay.
I think he's probably right in terms of the people.
Oh yeah, it's a bit like our pound for pound. We can all do a top 3.
Well, you say that. I've got. So we'll go spoilers, and I'll let Luke go first. But I agree with his people, not necessarily the order. But I will say there is definitely a case to be made that one of them doesn't belong in there.
Yeah,
one of these things is not like the other. One of these things doesn't belong.
But before we kick off, look,
it's like what's his name, Harry Kane in the top Premier League goal scorers. One of these things is not like the other. What's missing? Harry doesn't have a trophy.
That's it.
Sorry for that cheap dig at Tottenham there. No, I'm not sorry. Back to boxing.
All yours, look, fire away.
So I'm going to go from 5 to 1 because work our way up the list. So my number 5 is Craig Richards. I think Craig had a great showing against Dimitri Bivol. I just want to say, I said it to Craig at the weigh-ins for Lomachenko. I said, how do you make super middleweight? I said, you're going to have to move up soon. And then 2 months later, he was up at light heavyweight and he was laughing. But no, he's a big guy. Jesus Christ. Like, he's 6'3", if not 6'4", and he's got a big frame. And against Bivol, I think Bivol was flat that night, but this isn't making any excuses. Craig Richards boxed a great fight that night, and I had Bivol winning 8-4, and I expected it to be 12-0. So, Craig Richards, great showing of himself. Again, stopping Shaquan Pitters, who missed out on my top 5, obviously, and then was an honourable mention. That was a good fight. And a lot of people didn't expect Craig to win that. He was the underdog in that fight, and he pulled out all the stops. And I think if you're talking British level and above, he's definitely more towards fringe world title level than the British level. So say British is up here, he's there,
Certainly European.
And European is here. I think he's just above it, to be honest.
Mm.
But I don't think he'll ever be a world beater. But that's nothing to be ashamed of. And then my number 4, the man who you just slightly missed out for yourself, Adam, Linton Arthur. Now I'm ranking, just to be clear, I'm ranking based on how good I think they are. Not off their, who they beat and whatever. I think who is...
resume, as Mr. Hearn go on about.
Exactly. So I think Lyndon Arthur, right? For the yard fight, myself and my dad were the only 2 people I knew that picked Arthur to win. I thought Arthur was going to box his head off behind that jab for 12 rounds. Now, call it a fluke, call it whatever you want, call it Yard being off. I think the addition to Yard's camp, and I'll discuss that in a bit, has been an amazing addition. And I don't know what happened in the rematch. I'm still scratching my head about that. Because when, in the first fight, if Yard got him on the ropes and hit him, he stepped to the side, created an angle, and had the rest of the ring to himself. He didn't do that. He tried to stand and fight with Yard in the second fight. From the first bell, he didn't try and get behind the jab. He tried to land uppercuts inside and hold on, which was a stupid tactic because I don't think, physical-wise, I don't think there's a stronger light heavyweight than Yard. You know, for wrestling or grappling.
Yeah. For just sheer strength.
Yeah. There's a big difference between strength and power. But yeah, strength-wise, I wouldn't like to grapple with Yard, right? Oh. And someone of his frame isn't built for grappling. He's 6'2", he's long, he's rangy. He should have that Apollo Creed about him. He should, but get behind that jab, and then when he sets his feet, bang, bang, right hand, left hook, and get away again.
Less is more.
Yeah, less is more. And he proved that in the first fight with the basics, simple boxing. Now, after, was it round 7, he stopped kind of throwing that right hand, and then he landed the big one when Yard thought he was finished with the right hand. But after that, he didn't really throw it much, so he won it off the jab. And I didn't have that fight close at all. I don't know how yourselves had it.
I didn't have it close.
Yeah, I didn't think it was close. I had people saying, "Oh, Yard won. Oh, it was tight." No way. I'm sorry.
No, I think if I remember, right, I can't remember correctly, but I think I had it like 9-3 or something.
I think it was 9-3. I had it as well. And me and Dad watching. It was a split decision. We both.
Basically, it's a Yard show. Yeah, you know what the deal is.
Now, the second fight again, I have to go back to it because it's his last fight, and you're only as good as your last fight, so to say. He was poor, really poor, and I think if anyone would have got inside on him that night, he might have done it again. Like, I don't know what happened there. I don't know if it was mental. I don't know if he went into that camp and thought, "Oh, it's going to be easy this time because I've already done it once." And I won't mind. Pat Barrett is a good coach, and he's no nonsense either. Like, he'll tell you how it is. Like,
good job with Sandy Ryan.
Yeah. So, but again, with Zelfa has been quite flat lately too. That's going off topic, but
yes, let's get back on topic.
But with Arthur, his last performance wasn't great. I'm really looking forward to his comeback. I think he can definitely challenge for world titles. I think he's got it in him. Now, he needs to be matched correctly. Now, I'd like to see him, as I said last week, against Borderloo, or Borderlau, however it's pronounced. I think that'd be a really, really good test for him. And then at number 3 is Anthony Yard. So I think the 2 I have above him, 2 and 3, I won't argue if you have Yard against my number 2. But yeah, Yard, he's got everything you'd want. Now, you mentioned the trainer earlier who would be perfect for Yard, and that's Adam Booth. If Yard got under Adam Booth, he'd be like a light heavyweight David Haye. And Tunde Ajayi, it's not just because he gets on my nerves. I don't rate him as a coach. You listen to him in the corner, he has no advice to give. You watch him train, he has no advice to give. Now, I feel dead bad now because the fella that got in has left my brain. For the Lyndon Arthur fight, but he was an amazing addition to the camp, and I think he told Yard the reality of how it is, and Yard took that on. And in the second fight, you could tell Yard from the get-go was like, right, this is a demolition job, and it was. He did exactly what he needed to do. In Russia against Kovalev, who was probably 4 years past his best, for one round, he looked like one of the best light heavyweights on the planet. But he just didn't have what it takes at that level at the time. Now, whether he will this time next year, who knows? Depends who's the champion. I'll leave it there for now because I know you're probably going to discuss Yard a bit as well. My number 2 is Boatsi.
Yeah.
Now, if you told me Yard is better than Boatsi, I'd find it hard to argue. But I'm just going off the overall package. Yard is good at fast, explosive attacks. His defense isn't as good as he thinks it is. And Boatsi is good at grinding you down. Now, I've said it before on this channel, I don't think Boatsi is exceptional at anything. I know you said you like his inside work. But I don't think he's exceptional in anything. He's good in most areas, but he's not great in any for me. But I think being consistently good in many areas is what brings a fighter to a certain level. And again, I think he'll challenge for world titles. Looking at who's above him now on the world stage, he's not going to be a world champion. But in a couple of years' time, I think if he keeps knocking at that door, I think he will get it open. And I think he will win a title before he retires. And then my number 1 is Calum Smith. Now
You're the same as Steve McGurk.
It is actually the exact same as Stephen. Yeah. So Callum has proved himself at super middleweight. We might call him a bully now because he's so big and he was picking on the little guys. But no, all jokes aside, fantastic boxer, great offense, great punch variety. His defense is lacking a little bit. Against the likes of a Beterbiev, I'd be worried, or even a Joe Smith. But if he unleashes shots on you and you let him get inside, it's nightmare. And even at length, Buddy McGirt now has gone throwing that piston jab. It's sharp. It's a weapon now. He's not just pawing it out to get inside like the way Joe Gallagher had him doing it. He is firing that jab out fully fledged and it's knocking heads back. And I think he's already proven himself at world level for one. Like pound for pound, I know he had the injury, but George Groves was as good as.
Oh, I love George Groves. Phenomenal fighter.
Yeah, he was as good
and
as
huge. By the way, massive bloke.
Over about 210, 220 now. Like.
For 8,000 people at Wembley Stadium.
Yeah, he did, and one of the best.
So a good podcast as well.
Ever, by the way.
Yes, I have to actually check out that podcast. Everyone's recommending.
He's a great talker, and I'd like to hear him as a pundit as well because he talks the truth and he's got.
He was used as a pundit by Scott.
But with Froch as like a gimme to Froch.
Yeah,
remember they had that.
Froch should be sent out to the wilderness to find berries or something.
But no, George Groves, an excellent fighter to knock out. Only 2 men have ever done it. And Calum Smith, he proved himself at world level. Now against Canelo, I think that was a mental thing more than anything. Yeah. But now he's up at light heavyweight. He's who he's meant to be now. He's not killing himself to make weight. And he's big at the weight. He can box. He can punch. He's got most of what you need. And he's got a chin on him too.
And can he win a world title?
Not in the next 18 months. But as we discussed about Beterbiev before, if he is going this way, Smith could catch him at the right moment.
Exactly.
So I think, again, the same kind of thing as Buatsi. If Smith bides his time and, knocks on the door long enough, I think he will get that world title. And I think he'll be a two-weight world champion. And for me, he's head and shoulders above the rest that I've mentioned. I don't think it's too close at the moment.
Cool.
I think he's well above them.
Great. So now we are going to go to Adam's top 5 and see how it differs or not from Stephen. Well, Stephen only gave 3 to be fair, and Luke. Sorry?
Stephen's top 3 is spot on though.
Oh, you would say that, wouldn't you? Well, actually, to be fair, I'm looking at it and going, I wouldn't disagree with it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But anyway, we'll let Luke. We'll let Adam have his speak first now. Anyway, and then I will just do my little surmisey thing where I just go, yeah.
So mine, I've tried to put a little bit behind how good I think somebody is, whether I think they'll win a world title, and what they've already achieved. So I've got all of that's kind of taken into account. So my order doesn't necessarily reflect who I think's the best. I think it's just a ranking at the minute. Okay. So number 5, I have Dan Aziz. 16-0. He's got. We were talking about the traditional route earlier, and he's done exactly that. He's gone the Southern area, English and British champion. I was impressed with him against Hosea Burton, and very interestingly, he's fighting this weekend against Shaquan Pitters, which is one of our nearly guys. So I'm very intrigued to see. Any man who loves Marvin Hagler as much as I do is also a pretty good lad in my book. He's improved. I like him a lot. I think he's going to be a good British champion. And I don't think he'll win a world title, is my honest opinion, with Dan Aziz. At number 4, I have Craig Richards in at number 4 as well. Craig, another guy, really, really like Craig. I think he's probably a bit better than Dan. He's another former British champion as well. having again knocked out Shaquan Pitters. It's a really good barometer to see where we are. I thought it was good against Bivol. I thought, again, it was a combination of Bivol not being at his sharpest and Craig taking making it more difficult than he thought. I think Bivol was surprised at how good he was in front of him. He was jabbing him back. And I think if Craig had really realized that, oh my God, I'm actually in a chance of winning this fight, it was there. And I thought he gave Boazzi a really good fight. I don't think he was ever in danger of winning that fight. But I thought he gave him a really good fight. And I think Craig is, and it's a horrible phrase for us to use, a really good gatekeeper or a really good yardstick. How far are you going to go? If you're going to be good, and if you're going to win a world title, you should be able to beat him. Can you beat him? And that's kind of what it is. Do I think he'll win a world title? Probably not. Number 3 is Anthony Yarde. Anthony Yarde is here based on the fact that I think he is the most physically gifted of these light heavyweights.
Yeah.
So I was actually surprised. I looked up his record and he's 22-2 with 21 knockouts. And I forgot how hard he could punch. And he's so fast and he's so reflexive. But it's like someone is playing a PlayStation with him. So when we were talking about his defense not being as good as he is, and I've mentioned this a couple of times now, it's not an active defense. It's not a relaxed Tony style defense. It's catch, slip, parry, move out the way. And he doesn't punch off it at all.
No.
And without getting into any criticisms of his trainer, I haven't seen Yarde improve. I've watched Yarde for years, and I'm sure we'll all watch Yarde for years, and I think he's got it. He could potentially have what it takes to win a world title. And he hasn't improved. And you're not going to win a world title if you haven't got it up here in the same way if you've got the physicality for it. He had his moment against Kovalev. He was this close. But if you're not finishing off a finished Kovalev at that stage, he's a good Kovalev, but he's not the Kovalev he was, I'd be concerned. My other major concern was when I had another look at Anthony Yarde's record. Knockout loss to Kovalev off a jab when he was exhausted. He then proceeded to lose to Lyndon Arthur. Now, we slightly disagree on this one. I think Lyndon's got a brilliant jab and a lovely set of feet. But I do not think there is enough at world level. What will happen is if you haven't got enough on that backhand to back them up, they'll walk through you. And this is what happened in the second fight. It worries me when I see people... When I can see how you win a fight, you should be able to see, because you are a professional boxer with professional trainers, you know a damn sight more about the sport than I do. And I could see what he needs to do is he needs to get in behind his jab and put his hands together. And it's there. Yeah. I didn't do it. And that really worries me. And if you go through his, I know we all joke about the resume thing that Hearn goes on about. It's appalling. He's got one good win. He's got one good win. His win against Lyndon Arthur, which was his last one, is his single only good win. The rest are rubbish. It's not good enough.
Just two things on Yarde. If I didn't pick Arthur to win the way he did the first fight, I'd be saying the same as you. But I genuinely thought that's what would happen. That was my genuine opinion. And it is what happened. And with Yarde's defense, because you've expanded on what I said, like you say, it's not reflexive, it's active. And if you watch him, when he parries a jab, he instantly goes to roll. So if you faked your jab and then threw a left hook, he's there for it.
All day.
And someone at a high level, like Calum Smith, who's probably got the best left hook above super middleweight.
It's there.
Yarde's not going to like that. You know what I mean? Right. And like you say, his resume is so shallow. So.
But it's there. This is the thing. We're criticizing him because we can see him and we see it's there. And a lot of the times you look at fighters and think he's really good at a lot of these things, but it's not there. There's that level above, that elite level, it's got to be there, and it's not there. I want to see more from Yarde. I want to see more activity. I want to see improvement. And I don't know if anyone's looked up the name of the guy in his corner for the rematch that wasn't Tunde.
I was trying to look it up and I couldn't get it.
We'll give him a shout out because I thought he made a big difference.
Yeah, he did. Give Yarde to Adam Booth for 6 months. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's there. It's there. My number 2 is Calum Smith, right? So this is where, the only thing that's keeping Calum Smith at this level is he hasn't won something at light heavy. This is the only difference here, right? For me, Joshua Buatsi's win over Craig Richards is better than Calum Smith's win over Border League, and that's the difference.
Okay.
This is why I've got it in the way of the rankings. If you ask me who won in a fight just now, I would pick Smith to beat Buatsi. But for now, I have Smith at number 2.
Okay.
He's brilliant. I think we've eulogized about Calum enough. He's a former WBA super middleweight champion, and he's the only fighter on this list to have competed and won at world level. Like it says enough. He's brilliant puncher. They've got such spiteful power, and it's so short and sharp. And I've got a lot of time for Calum. You are able to touch him, which would make me slightly nervous against Beterbiev.
Yeah.
But I think Calum wins a world title. I've said this. I said that when Calum turned pro, and I saw him the first couple of times, I said he won a world title as a middle. I think he wins a world title at light heavy. Okay, he's a brilliant fighter, and I think he's only going to improve under Buddy McGirt.
Yeah,
I have Buatsi currently ranked number 1 in the UK. Former British champion. I think his wins over Bolotnik and over Craig Richards are the better wins out of all of our other competition.
James Cook was the answer to your question.
So big up James Cook.
Yeah.
So for me, that's why I've got Buatsi where he is. Smith. So I think Smith and Buatsi are a level above everybody else. So I know we were talking about how you could maybe split Buatsi and Yard. I think Buatsi is showing he's a bit tougher and showing he's smarter. I think he'd be too smart. And I think he would punch through, like kind of around and through a lot of Yard. I think what would happen there is when Yard goes to rest, Buatsi would go to work. But I'm a big fan. I really like the style. I really like his shorter punches. He's tough. I think that's a big thing here is Smith and Buatsi both show they've got a good chin. He's a big lad. And I thought he showed, and this is what you want to see, when he won his British title, he won it comfortably. And I think that's something that needs to be happening. When you win at British level, if you're not fighting another Buatsi, you need to look good. And he did. Okay. So I think Buatsi and Smith is the fight to make. That's the one I want to see more than anyone else. And I would pay to go anywhere in the country to see that.
Yeah, I'd fly for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
my lap and Ryanair jumps and go over to that.
Yeah. So that's my reasoning behind my ranking. So a little bit based on how good I think everybody is and a little bit based on what they've achieved.
Yeah, mine was based solely on who's best for me.
Okay. Yeah. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say based on basically it's what Enda goes on and it's what Enda just likes. I like what I see what I like. Yeah. And I would agree with you. I would have had Buatsi first, but Smith leapfrogged him with his last performance. I thought it was just so good. I was like, yeah, Smith's ahead of.
You're converted now, Enda.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that, or I'm just easily swayed. I'm not easily swayed. In fairness,
I was going to say you're not easily swayed.
Yeah.
No, the lady is not for turning, but again, that would be it. I would go Smith 1, Buatsi 2. I don't like Anthony Yard. I'm sorry, I don't. So I'm not even going to bother naming him as number 3. That's just my 1 and 2. But again, and you speak of like Callum Johnson and the others there. And what could have been for so many boxers, but at the end of the day, boxing is a discipline. And, like every sport, there's external forces that cause derailments to everyone's career across every division. And in a perfect world, in a perfect environment, in which science experiments are happened, we would find out who the actual best is. But given the real world, and there's so many external factors at play, the person ending up holding the belt at the end of the day isn't always the person you expected to be doing that. Like we always look at, when you review in 10 years' time, who's going to be in England football team. And one of them is usually in it, and the rest have kind of withered on the vine, as Adam said. So it's like that. Well, except that we're looking at the top level here, but Smith and Buatsi, can they challenge the likes of Berbatov and Bivol? I would say right now, no. But in time, could they be champions? Yes. Could Yard? No. So I'm going to be as blunt and as basic as that. But so that's my 2 cents worth there. So have you anything to just finish up on, guys? Or I don't think I've said anything too outrageous to annoy Adam. So
yeah. One thing on Yard, his time is very limited with his style. He's a sprinter.
Yeah.
Right? He's a sprinter. They don't have long shelf lives, and neither does he. We've seen it with David Hay. And I like the comparison between Yard and Hay because strip them down to the bare bones, they're the same. Hay
actually, I think that's a very real comparison because I think they're very similar. But my reasoning might be a little bit more kind of negative for putting them together.
What I'm trying to say is Hay had the pedigree, right? So Hay was a very good boxer, very good boxer.
World medalist for the amateurs.
Yeah, exactly. Yard didn't have that, but strip them down to the bare bones. They're very similar athletes, just as athletes. Take away the boxing.
Yeah.
Hay was finished by the time he was 31, essentially.
He hurt his toe.
Yard isn't going anywhere too quick at the moment. And time is not on his side. We speak about Beterbiev, but could Yard nearly be at his physical peak or below it by the time that fight rolls around? We don't know what he's got, how he trains. He must train very slow.
Would you put Yard in with Beterbiev? Like
he's mandatory.
Yeah, I mean, you would. This is the thing. You've got to take your chance with these things, and especially with someone that punches like Yard.
Yeah,
you've got to take your chance. With Beterbiev, I think the difference is he's a better boxer.
Yeah,
the man is a brilliant boxer. It's not like he's just this ridiculous puncher. The guy's a brilliant boxer.
Well, he's a wonderful Canadian boxer.
Yeah, and what I'm saying about Yard is though we don't know how long he's got left. He could be bicep injury away from retirement.
Well, if it gets in with Beterbiev, I could say it's less than 36 minutes.
Oh well, sure. Yeah. No matter what.
What I will say is, I think we've all said this: is do we think they beat Bivol and Beterbiev? And I think this would take into Stephen's question, which is, will we make them favourites? No. Should they fight anyway? Yes. Have we been wrong about a ton of other fights? Absolutely. Yeah. Make the bloody fights, and if they're not going to fight Bivol and Beterbiev, they should fight each other.
I was going to say, should they not fight each other? Give the
but they won't.
British people back British top-level British boxing.
Smith and Boatsy fight for a world title at minimum. If neither of them win it, that fight doesn't happen.
So
I'm being very Liz Truss at the minute, aren't I? British people.
Take my top 5 and take Adam's top 5. We'll make it a top 6.
Yeah.
So Arthur and Aziz, right? Because Aziz is always Arsenal in mine. You put number 1 and number 2 against any one of the 4 below. It fills any arena in Britain.
Absolutely.
There's no reason for them not to fight each other. No reason. If they've got no prospect on, no one wants to see them fight X, Y, and Z from Mexico just because he's tough. Fight each other. Fight people who are trying to win. If you said to someone, will we watch Craig Richards and Boatsy go at it again? You'd say, yeah.
Yeah.
Do if you said, do you want to see Callum Smith against fucking Yard? Yeah, 100%.
Oh, yes. I want to see that.
Like any of them, you can mix and match it. You could make a Super 6 out of that.
Callum Smith would just be fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Like, these lads need to know they're making money against whoever. It's not just the world champions they're making money against.
Yeah, but they are their promoters' cash cows, so they're going to milk them for all they're worth, and that's just.
I know, but we're now going into an economical situation where basically there's not going to be as much money in the market, right?
That's it.
And you have to give us products we want to watch. Now, we are the wrong people to be talking to because we're 3 idiots who are talking about boxing on the internet. We are clearly going to buy and watch whatever crap we get given. If you want to actually make some money and build new fans, this is how you do it. People don't talk about Boatsy versus somebody like Bolotnick is a really simple example. Bolotnick is a really good fighter. No one gives a shit because they can't say his name. And that is the basic disappointing nature of society.
Yeah.
Boatsy versus Calum Smith sells like hell because it's 2 big British fighters. That's the difference. And that makes both men bigger and better.
And that's a fight where if there was a rematch clause, you wouldn't be mad.
Yeah, don't care. Don't do it in Liverpool, do it in London. No one cares.
Yeah.
Just make them fight.
The whole North v South thing, I mean, it's perfect. Like,
100%.
Right, really simple example. If we go back to the middleweights of about 5-10 years ago, if we go Darren Barker, Matt Macklin, Martin Murray, and I can't remember who the 4th guy was. There was a 4th. They didn't fight. None of them fought. That is absolutely ridiculous. There's so much money on the table there, and I want to see this. Do I think they'll fight? I think some of them will fight.
Yeah, it was Barker, Murray, Macklin.
Yeah, but they were all after world titles, and
But this is it. Don't do the same problem here. Like if they're gonna
Andy Lee as well, I suppose. Andy Lee as well.
Andy Lee, that was the other one. Andy Lee as well. I love Andy Lee, so
I love Andy Lee, and I actually thought Andy Lee would never get his world title, and he did.
He was the best of the lot of them.
But he, for a guy that was so clinical and skillful at amateur level, he wasn't. He was very good. He really just chucked the sink at it when it came to the pro game.
John Jackson knew all about it.
One of the best knockouts I've ever seen. I got a lot of love for Darren Barker as well. Just such a nice guy.
Yeah. But Darren's a lovely guy, and Darren's the kind of guy that you're like, he won a world title. I don't want to sound offensive, but like you're like, wow, that's a real super achievement for him.
This about Darren Barker. When I turn pro, now not that it'll happen, but if him and Joe Kazagi said to me, we'd like to manage it, I would trust them. I would.
Yeah, you would. You would absolutely trust those guys.
There's another.
There's not many men I'd say that about in boxing, but I genuinely would trust Darren Barker with my career.
Listen to the podcast. Listen to the George Groves podcast because he's just done one on dealing with defeat with Darren Barker. It's really good.
I will.
It's really good.
I'll give you a listen.
But yeah, to summarize it very quickly, we've got it's one of those divisions, right? Where generally speaking,
the
other one.
Just jumping in, agreeing with you about that middleweight conundrum that we were, because we got in such good fun with Collins and Eubank and Ben and Watson and that UK. That UK level that just had everybody gripped, and then it just fell apart.
Well, this is it, and the big names. We all remember Galen Groves because they fought. They should have had a rematch. We all remember Froch because he fought Groves, and obviously the Calzaghe stuff, and he won everything. These big British fights matter because that's how you're remembered. We've got the light middleweights, which is the other division that I think is brilliant in the UK. I think it is drifting into the middle. They need to fight.
We can look at that another day.
We have legitimate world-class fighters in that division now who aren't holding world titles, and they need to fight. And I want to see them. They're fun fighters as well. It's not like they're horrendous to watch.
Who doesn't remember the War of the Roses? Brooks.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like that was Brooks' acid test.
Yeah, that was the one where you're like, right, is he going to be good? This is it. I think he's great. How good is he? This will tell me if it's all smoke and mirrors or if he's got it.
Yeah, there was such needle between Macklin and Murray.
Yeah.
No,
but Macklin was a few shades behind those lads, if we're honest.
I would say so. I would agree. I think Macklin, but he just had that heart, he had that.
He's also a terrible pundit, but that's for another time.
Well,
Martin Murray, I think.
Not terrible associations, but anyway.
Martin Murray at one stage should have been the number one middleweight in the world.
Yes.
He beat Martinez and he beat Sturm.
Yeah. He won.
So he should have had 2 belts.
Yeah.
It's such a shame.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And they had to fight Golovkin. Oh,
I never forget. I met Martin Murray in the Trafford Centre in Manchester, and I asked him what was it like to fight Golovkin, and he said, "I don't remember after round 5."
Yeah.
So that always stuck with me. I said, "Wow, that's something else." But before we finish up, I just want to touch on something from the weekend. I don't know if you watched the boxing over the weekend.
I did.
Now,
in the United States or in
boxing for the first one, because at the O2 Arena, the KSI show, right? I watched that card from top to bottom.
Pedraza.
Yeah, Pedraza as well with Comey, yeah. So in the O2 Arena, right? Those fans put boxing fans to shame. That arena was full from 7:30 in the evening. 20,000 people. That's never been done before in professional boxing, right? Where are the fans?
Meetings would fill 20,000 people in the O2 Arena. That doesn't make them fucking great.
What the difference is? Why are we watching undercards with 10% of the crowd there for genuinely great fights, right?
Well, they're not always. Sometimes they're just a young boxer starting off, so he's just getting experience, and not everyone.
And what were these lads on Saturday?
But sure, it was a novelty act. It was just a novelty act. It wasn't
still a full house. So why can't we, as boxing fans, everybody? Now I'm the type of boxing fan. Whenever I go to a show, doors open. I'm there till whatever time it finishes.
Yes,
right?
We know,
and I'm sure you're the same, right?
Yes. Well,
I used
Mrs.
to
hates
be,
it.
I
Mrs.
used to be,
hates it.
but I've since
guaranteed. But like you'd sit
since
there, I'd
the
sit
whole
there
value of my
hours
time, I've said,
happily.
right, I can arrange X and Y, and then.
But me, like myself and Dad stuck it on because there was nothing else on the telly, right? And we're looking at it. 8 p.m. The place is full to the brim. Everybody's screaming, everyone excited to see who they're supporting. The difference is, right, these YouTubers and influencers, they have actual supporters who actually go and support.
They've got 2 million followers.
Yeah, but it doesn't take 2 million followers to fill a 20,000 arena between 20 boxers.
But I'm saying boxers don't have that many followers. I mean, who was giving out about it?
A lot of them.
If I was on Twitter, but the point is that you are on Twitter and you've got about 6,000 followers.
But if we're honest, right? Most of them people that go to any boxing show in the UK and Ireland, especially UK, because Ireland doesn't really have pro shows at the moment.
No,
they're night out fans. They're not boxing fans.
Oh, the drug scene at the minute, a live fight is absolutely ridiculous.
Atrocious.
Yeah,
well,
it's awful.
That's the kind of the bed they've decided to sleep in. You know, I mean,
isn't it bad that for me, as a boxing fan, my entire life, since I remember looking at a screen, right, I'm looking at that thinking, why can't we have that?
So I think, I'm actually with you on this. I think what we as a sport have to recognize that we are niche.
Yeah,
like, we are what we are, right? What are they doing that's getting the people through the doors for the period of time that they are? Recognizing it's a novelty act. But what about that novelty act is attracting people? Now, a really good example of someone that has now legitimized themselves, but initially started in a very similar vein, was Ebony Bridges.
Yeah.
You've got to move the needle. You've got to be interesting. And she was. And well, I think that's where Ben Whittaker is going to be interesting because of his personality. He is going to be that kind of guy that would piss off your traditionalists, like, and I count myself among them, and then, but he will attract other people with his razzmatazz. It's like Prince Nazim. If you're a fan of Prince Nazim or not a fan of Prince Nazim, if you're delighted when he finally got, put in his place, or if you mourned it, that will kind of tell you where you stood there. Because as you may or may not guess, I was not a fan of Prince Nazim.
Have you been to boxing in the O2?
Yes. O2 in London?
Several times, yeah.
So the O2, right? We all know, all three of us have been there. It's not just an arena, it's a village. Right? It's a village with restaurants, shops, a cinema, you name it. So you could go to the cinema and watch the new movie and then go to the boxing if you so wished, right? But if you buy a ticket to somewhere, why aren't you in there from the get-go?
Yeah. Because they're not, like you said, they're not boxing fans. And we talk about how the YouTube people is this massive audience, and they're not doing enough to get these people into boxing. I think a tiny fraction would make such a difference. We're not doing enough as a sport.
Well, is it like the football where the majority of money is made from TV revenue or streaming revenue and not from sales? Because even, and I know with Boxer, and I've seen it, they're practically giving away tickets just to fill the stadium.
That thing with professional boxing, who has the biggest followings? It's the football fans, right? It's Ricky Hatton, it's Nathan Heaney, it's Josh.
That's why the promoters are desperate to attach their fighters to football.
But that's lazy. There's ways. There's more ways. That's a very simple way of doing it, but there's multiple ways of making it.
I heard a great analogy. Sorry to cut across, Adam, as to why boxing or combat sports, will give MMA their shout as well here, is the most compelling thing on the planet. So you have.
You're going to say the Callum thing, aren't you?
The street corner. You know the one.
I know exactly the one. Yeah.
So you have Federer and Nadal on one corner. You have Kobe and Michael Jordan on one corner. You have Ronaldo and Messi in the other corner playing football, and you have two random lads fighting. What's the crowd looking at?
Everyone's watching the fight.
So that's what Max Kellerman said, right?
Well, I wouldn't agree. I would say they're probably watching Nadal and Federer.
I don't know. Now I'd be fucking watching the two boys going at it.
I really wouldn't. I mean, if you give me the option going forward, it'll be Nadal and Federer for me.
But you are exceptional. You are not the average man.
But also, right?
I love it when you praise me like that. I'm taking that as the definition of exceptional that I choose, not the one that you mean, and that you clearly are
just to argue your point, though, Ender, right? I've seen it on telly, and thank God I've never been to a boxing show where it's kicked off. But I've seen it on telly where there's two boxers fighting in the ring, and there's a few random lads fighting in the crowd, and the crowd is over here.
That happened at the. So I went to the Liverpool fights, Smith Fowler, and that's exactly what happened.
Did it happen like that?
Smith and Fowler. So you can't tell in the broadcast. So watch the back. Smith and Fowler are fighting, and in the background, there's a group of lads fighting. It all kicks off. The entire crowd turned to watch these idiots fight. Apart from me, my missus, and one old man about 2 rows behind, who were obstinately staring at the ring, being like, "We're not fucking watching. We're paid for this. I'm not watching these morons."
That tells you everything. Mm-hmm. And I think my argument is for this YouTube influencer boxing. One, it was a good production they put on, right? I watched it and I happily watched that. It was grand. Now a lot of the boxing was terrible, right? It was white collar level best. Now there was one person on it who impressed me, that Salt Pappy guy. He can box.
Yeah, actually, he's been getting a lot of praise from actual boxers.
He's got a good pair of hands on him, and if he wanted to, he could actually. If he got himself down to middleweight, light middleweight, he could do something with himself. I'm not even joking saying that. He's got a good pair of hands. Now he's 85 kilo at the moment, so if he stays there till next year and he wants one, I'll have him, no problem. But
you're desperate. Payday, you want payday.
Exactly. But no, he's got a good pair of hands in him, and I enjoyed watching him for the 30 seconds he was on. But like KSI, right, is obviously everyone in the world knows who he is at this stage. A few other lads I'd never heard of, but
I don't know what KSI is or does. I do know he fought one of the
boxers.
What?
He boxes.
He boxes.
Where is he from?
Okay.
He's a rapper. YouTube. Yeah, he has a load of.
I wouldn't know anything like that.
He's a finger in a load of pies. You know that kind of way.
Yeah.
But, no, like the fact that they can fill the place from 7 p.m. is just a joke.
I know is Lizzo.
That's who wouldn't fill the O2 for boxing. But
I was going to say she's filling on one, but anyway.
No, like it's a joke. And as boxing fans, if any other boxing fans like myself watch that on Saturday night, they ought to be thinking, why isn't this like it for us? Because I don't know about you, right?
Snobby.
Yeah, like I hate going in and like Adam Aziz in Manchester on the undercard of Canbrook. Big game player here. Same with Bradley Ray, right? Against Craig O'Brien. There was about 800 to 1,000 people. Do you know, even for the super middleweight English title, there was a handful of people there. Now once it came to Natasha Jonas, who was the co-main event, people started kind of spilling in, and then obviously for the main event it was packed.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be that way because they're out there. They're out there drinking. They're out there smoking.
So the question you have to ask is, why would they prefer to stay in the foyer drinking and smoking than come in and watch the boxing? So that's
the other people are happy to sit there all night long. So where are we losing out, and why?
Yeah, it's a different category of people, and I think this is something we should actually do as like a thing in general, as like a review. But that is a massive question, and it's something that we as a sport and multiple sports need to look at. As a combat sport, that's something we need to look at. Rugby's got a massive issue with exactly that. It's the snobbishness that they're not prepared to learn. They're not prepared to learn from football.
Right.
Like, we're better than football because we're a gentleman's sport. They're not prepared to learn, and they should learn. With the world we're now in, it's becoming more and more important to be relative and to be seen. And by doing that, it's numbers. And that's what matters. You've got to have people there. I'm going to have to run. So I've got one last thing to say before we go, which is big up Liam Smith, big up Tasha Jonas for Saturday night.
Yeah. Very best luck to
look forward to it.
Absolutely, yeah. And I did enjoy. I woke up and I saw some of the fights on the Top Rank card on Sky, and apart from that dreadful mismatch
with Torres.
Oh, Pedraza nicked it, and I love Torres' mustache off the jump. So I'll see you guys next time. Okay.
So that's it then. So we're going to wrap it up there, and we'll be back next week, and we'll be looking at we'll be just briefly discussing Natasha Jonas and her fight, and Smith, Calum Smith, and we'll be starting to look forward to the biggest fight of the year as far as I'm concerned.
Is there something on in September end that you're going to?
I don't know. I mean, I think all roads lead to Las Vegas. But Stephen McGurr's just popped in there. Excellent show, guys. Cheers, Stephen. that money, that Northern Irish banknote, will be winging its way to you as we speak. But yeah, it's all about Canelo Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin, and it's so funny because everyone says, "Enda, I thought you were a Canelo fan," and I am, but you're shouting for Golovkin. I says, yes, because I'm a believer in natural justice. Because Golovkin deserves to have his hand raised. I don't think he will, but I'd love to hear the final bell because he's such a true warrior.
So we must preview it before you head off.
We'll preview it properly. I'm just dropping it. Anyway, it's great talking to you, Luke, and you had great breakdown there of the light heavyweight scene, yourself and Adam. Very good. I mean, you know, it is a good, and like we were saying, and like Stephen was saying in the chat, if we had had that continue on the way we did with the best British and Irish fighters fighting each other that we had in the 80s and the early 90s, if that had continued on and you had those fights that you were saying there between Matthew Macklin and the others, then, you know, perhaps we would be looking at Buatsi and Smith fighting each other instead of looking at fighting randomers until they get the world title shot.
Yeah, well, look, all we can do is hope for the best, isn't it?
Exactly. So we leave it there anyway. Take care, and we should be back with a review and a preview next Monday. Take care. Bye.
Catch you later on.
Bye.